Good morning, Colleen. Hello.
Morning, Mia.
Good. And we're on
How are
the
you
same
today?
time zone, which is
Yes,
fantastic. That doesn't happen
yes.
very often. So you're in South Africa and I'm in Spain. So this is exciting. Colleen, today I would love to interview you as part of our Parenting with Coaching Mindset series. And this interview is about your experience with your son and as a family during COVID-19 as a parent, but also beyond that. So just to introduce you to our lovely viewers, you're Colleen Leclercq, and I hope I pronounce your name right and your job. If I don't, jump in and tell me. You are a mum of Liam, a 6-year-old boy, who sounds very cute, may I add. And Colleen is also an executive systemic team coach. She's the business owner of Connect EQ, which is a coaching and consulting business. So Colleen, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more and to tell us why this topic of parenting is actually important to you.
Thank you, Leah, and really good to connect with you here and to people who would be watching. So I always introduce myself as a human being first, just to remind myself that I'm not superhuman, I'm not a machine, because we tend to get into that kind of mode a lot. And so human being, wife, mother, business person, and student. I'm also studying. So yes, there's a lot of roles in there, and I work globally. I work with companies that are global and a lot online, and I work with systems, relationship systems. So I do believe we're always connected, we're all interconnected. And not only do I have a 6-year-old, but I also have 2 stepchildren. So one is 24 and the other one is 16. And the 24-year-old is currently, I think he was in Italy, he's now in France and doing yachting. So they're not working at the moment, they are in isolation. And my 16-year-old is isolating with his mum. So we've got this extended family, but really interconnected. So it was Mother's Day yesterday, and I was so pleased to get a message from them. So
Happy Mother's Day for yesterday.
thank
Oh,
you. So yes, that's me in a nutshell. Really pleased to be chatting with you about this topic, and it's important to me because I'm a parent, and I like to see myself as a conscious parent because I was a parent before I had my own boy, a ready-made. I had ready-made children that I was an extended parent to when I met them, when I was fortunate enough to meet my stepboys.
thank you, Colleen. And I'm wondering, especially with Liam, what's influenced your style of parenting through the years?
Wow, so that's interesting because I grew up in a family that was quite, there was a lot of conflict in my family when I was growing up, when I was a child. And so when I was fortunate enough to become a parent, I made sure that I broke those patterns. I'm very much into attachment theory and the critical stages of child development. And I am really proud of the fact that Liam has had a stable 0 to 6. So really, really pleased about that. I had a different relationship with my mom than I had to my dad. We were close, but there was so much conflict that it really wasn't the most nurturing environment in terms of everything that was going on as I was growing up in this kind of environment. So that had a major influence on my parenting style, because I made a choice that was not how my child was going to experience those critical stages in life.
So you've used your own personal experience and kind of adapted and built on that in your parenting style with Liam.
Yes, absolutely. And it also changed. I mean, when I became a young adult, I made choices at that point to change the relationship that I had with my parents. They kind of used to want to both speak with me at the same time. And at that point, I started building individual relationships with them, and consciously creating a new kind of relationship with my parents. So we were really close, and they're no longer with us, so they both passed. But when they were alive, I managed to, at a young age, I think 24, I made a conscious choice to change the nature of the relationship that I had with each of them, which really, really, I'm pleased that I got to do that. And I got quite a few years of connection with them before they passed.
That's really nice to hear. It is that you've managed to build that connection, and that's had some influence on your parenting style. And
Very
you've
much
given
so.
Liam that stability in the 0 to 6 years, which is, you know, the most important time in a child's development. So that's so lovely to hear. It really is. And we're going through a bit of an unusual time at the moment. It's a global pandemic. Yeah. And everyone's way of being has been turned upside down and around, and parenting at this time, because I'm not a parent, and I can only but imagine how difficult this actually is, having worked with children, especially teenagers. I can't imagine being stuck at home and having to balance work, my alone time, teaching, space for my little young person, all at once, all very quickly without any warning. So I'm wondering how you're coping, balancing all of these things.
Well, coping, I would say very carefully, if at all, because it's really difficult. There's a lot of, personally, just speaking for myself, I do feel edgy a lot of the time because of all these roles. So from a work perspective, I'm happy to work online. I've been a virtual worker for more than 15 years, close to 20, before we had this great technology where you can actually connect with people and see body language. So working remotely is not a problem at all. And I'm very comfortable with that. My husband also works very comfortably remotely. He works for a global IT organization, so they are used to working this way. The interesting thing there is that we share a home space as well as a co-working space. And so he's on one side of the house, actually, that used to be my office. So he's in my office and I'm in the other side of the house where I need to do my calls. And when I've got really confidential calls, then we negotiate schedules and communicate and say, right, you need to keep yourself and Liam locked on that side of the house, and I've got this hour with this client, or this 2 hours with this client. So it's really a case of opening communication and negotiating, and that's just the work front. I've realized very quickly with the help of my husband. So I do have a tool that I use in relationship systems coaching called the Designed Team Alliance, or the Designed Partnership Alliance. And over time, I've educated my family around these tools. And my husband actually brought it up soon after lockdown. He said, we need to have a conversation about a pandemic partnership agreement. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought all the while I'm trying to educate my family on these tools because I'm really passionate about the work I do. I also want to use the tools that I share with my clients. And so it's not always easy, but when my husband suggested it, I said, oh, that's a brilliant idea. And so I'm in the process of adapting this tool to expand it around really noting what are the different contexts that exist in our, what I like to call our little safety bubbles. We've got self, so there are 3 individual selves living under one roof, and each one of us has different needs, different preferences, and so we need to look at what are the choices that we need to make in order for those needs to be fulfilled. And that's just one of the contexts. There's work that both my husband and I need to do, and all the while we've got to make sure that we're keeping Liam occupied and engaged in what he needs to do, because that just cropped up last week, his school curriculum. And besides school, I've got university, and I've also got, obviously, so the work bit is during the day, and then there's home. This is the most incredible thing. Normally, under normal circumstances, pre-COVID, we'd wake up, we'd get Liam ready for school, one of us would take him to school, and then the other one would go off to work, and I would stay at home. And in those, in that situation, you'd each have your own space, whether it's driving in the car or you're just not used to being cooped up together 24/7. And that was so interesting for me over time to realize, as much as I love my family, as much as they love me, where do you find the breathing room, the space? And it's interesting, if you're not conscious of it, how you end up literally stepping on each other's toes. And so that is when it dawned on me, we need to actually see how we could use this tool. It sounds impersonal to have a template and to kind of project manage your way through work, life, self. However, all it means is having a conversational template and getting down to the basics of what do you need? How can we best work out how to fulfill that? Because not everyone's needs can be fulfilled by other people, but how can you allow the space for people to fulfill their own needs? And so this conversational tool, it's like a living, breathing thing. Just like relationships are dynamic, you don't have to attempt the whole thing at once. Just 1 or 2 things that you can try and say, well, let's give it a go. Let's just turn toward. I like David White is one of my favorite poets, and he says, just turn toward the courageous conversation. And turning toward this kind of, not collaboration, it's more of a communicating around coordinating your schedules. Just turning toward it regularly can help you manage whatever it is you need to manage at any given moment. And some things work and some things don't. We tried a meal plan for a week. Day 1, it was kind of, but I thought we agreed you're going to do lunch. Oh no, I thought it was you, and it's written down. It doesn't always work, but that's okay. How can we try something different? And pause. Pausing is important. So really asking for what you need is something that comes up a lot, especially when tensions run high, emotions run high. Sometimes all you need is to take a breath, take a pause, step back, and really lean into what it is you need at that moment. I've even got, how do we communicate? We will communicate when. We will not communicate when.
I actually wanted to ask you, sorry, about that.
Yes,
This tool has I really like the sound of it because it has so many different benefits, and it really comes in handy at a time like this. So when you said before, having your own time, you know, that is so important to different people. It's more important for me. That's super important. So how have you managed to use the tool to be able to get your own time, and has it been working?
So I haven't written anything down, but it's been in my head. And so I was able to navigate the necessary conversations, so much so that my little sponge of a 6-year-old picks up on these cues, and he would say, you know, as long as it's so interesting to watch, because as long as he has what he needs, and obviously we are making sure that he's fed and he is occupied and engaged, while we actually communicate explicitly with him. We say, we've got a call and it'll be this long, and then there'll be a break, and then we'll see you in the break. And he remembers all of these things. So he loves his eggy sandwiches, and he will say, could you make me an eggy sandwich, an eggy sami? So I'll make that for him, and then he sits down and he'll say, okay, thank you, Mom. You can go and have your alone time now. I'm going to enjoy my sandwich. And I'm like, wow, you know? So he is also very tuned in to not only his needs, but his parents' needs and the family system's needs. When he hears a change in tone and in how my husband and I are communicating at any given time, he will pause us and go, is everything okay? Are you okay? And at that point we go, oh, okay, maybe our tone isn't quite where it should be. And at that point, it brings awareness into the family system, which is phenomenal.
I absolutely love the sound of this. And I love the fact your 6-year-old has recognized your alone time and how important that actually is to you. Wow.
I can't explain that. I'm going with it. I just think it's phenomenal that these young beings can teach us adults so much if we really listen, if we can see them for who they are and really listen to what's behind any communication or behavior that's kind of coming at us. You know, I understand how it feels when emotions are running high, when tensions are high, and yet it happens with children as well. So the moment you're seeing some kind of signal, often people say, oh, my child's playing up or playing out. At that moment is a beautiful opportunity to go, what does my child need? And to try and see beyond whatever behavior is coming at you. And it's not always easy, because at that moment, it's the strangest thing. I believe in Murphy's Law that when you're tired, stressed, hungry, it's at that moment that something like that happens. It's even more important to take a breath and to take a pause and to go, right, what do I need? What does my child need? What does our relationship need? And step into that. So that's helped us. It's all ORSC inspired. So relationship systems coaching. And I've actually asked the founders if we could work on something to adapt that awesome tool into the now context of everything, just blended in, because it was fine when, I mean, life was hectic before COVID. Now it just seems exponentially busier. And I'm finding the risk of burnout to be even higher than before. It's just about every person I speak to, they're back to back to back to back. And I understand that, and I can imagine it. And I'm also trying to focus on my own schedule in terms of creating spaciousness in between, just time to breathe. And it's not always easy, but to take 5 minutes. It's really incredible what just 5 minutes break can do, from a break from a screen, a break to go and put your feet on the grass, to take a breath. It's phenomenal how energizing that is. And I think it's vital. We need that, especially now.
More than ever. Definitely. I couldn't agree more. That pause is so important. And actually, what you're saying about burnout resonates. I am working more than I've ever worked. And that intensity, because you can't escape. So work has become kind of, was the escape, and now it's become the overriding kind of thing in my life right now. And for me, there's loads of people similar, like you and I, who are starting to see this becoming quite overwhelming. And then I have friends and family who aren't working at all and are so bored and haven't got anything to do and constantly like, oh, Leah, phone me, text me, speak to me, shall we meet, shall we do this, shall we? And it's like, I have not got the time. So there's that misunderstanding as well, and having to explain that. But yes, it is a tough time. What are you finding the most difficult during COVID-19 as a mum?
As a mom, what I'm finding difficult is not being able to be on top of everything. It feels impossible at this stage to be on top of work, to be on top of housekeeping, to be on top of all the meals, to be on top of school, university, self-connection, connection with others. It's really, really tough that it's all just blended together. And I won't pretend to have it all together. It happened to me too. So what I'm trying to do is help clients at the same time that I'm trying to help myself. And it wouldn't be helpful if I waited until I had it all together before I could then start helping my clients. So who knows how long we'd be here waiting for that. But if there are small little things, I'm honest with people I speak with. I say, I don't have it all together. Maybe it appears that I do. All I'm doing is trying to turn toward it. I'm trying to take that first step. I'm trying to unpack everything so that I can put it all back together, so that this safety bubble not only helps us feel comfortable, safe, in control now, but it can also sustain us into the after now, the business unusual that I believe we will be going into, because it's right now we're in it. And at the moment it's a case of, so what would the transition look like? What would the new normal look like? And how long would that last before an alternative emerges? So it's really, for me, I'm finding it difficult, but at the same time, I'm staying hyper present in what is, in all of it, in the discomfort, in the comforts. There are comforts. I mean, I don't even want to begin the conversation right now. I'm not comfortable. I'm doing what I can to help people in terms of donating to charity, or leaving food for people who are less fortunate. You know, that just sends me into an exponential realm of what's out there. And it very, very quickly brings me back into the humility of being grateful for what I do have, given everything that has suddenly been taken away as a result of this virus. And wow, you know, we could carry on having this kind of conversation. It's really, it brings home the fact that everybody's situation is different. Everyone is so unique, and everyone copes in different ways. And I do see this as a collective trauma that's going on in the world. Big T, little t, it's still trauma. Whether people are coping well or not coping well. It's still a traumatic global event that's going on right now. And who knows when we're actually going to be able to go back to what I'm not even sure we'll be able to go back to whatever we felt was normal. I think we need to deal with what is, and how we're going to deal with whatever is emerging for us, and make the best of this, what we call life, while we're here.
Nicely said. The best of what we call life. And that uncertainty is one of the hardest parts of this collective trauma. And you're right, it is. It's a trauma. And what I liked when you were speaking then was that gratitude for what we have, and acceptance that everybody's situation is different and everyone will be experiencing trauma, and to be really grateful for what situation we are in, because if you do open your mind and start thinking of other people and other families, poor families, etc., it's it's good to remember the things that we do have, and to remember that it isn't forever as well. Things might not go back to how they were. For me, maybe that's not a bad thing sometimes. I've seen so many positives coming out of this. I spoke to somebody yesterday who said, I've never seen so many people exercise, so many children getting fresh air and exercise, especially in the UK, because I know they're allowed out a lot more than we are in Spain, and I think you are in South Africa. But I'm starting to see more benefits, to this than before. So I'm wondering what insights you've had, the positive insights and the benefits that you're seeing in this situation, Colleen.
So some of the really key insights that have emerged for me is how we pull together unconsciously or consciously around the roles, the things that have to get done. And I'm including Liam in that, because we often think as parents we've got to know it all, have it all, do it all, be it all. And if we allow everyone to play a part in the relationship, it eases the pressure somewhat. So an example of that is when, like I mentioned earlier, Liam says, go and have your alone time, mommy. Or he completely understands, and I so appreciate that. I need to actually explicitly appreciate him more for, I say, I'm so proud of you and you're handling this well, and thank you so much for playing such an important role in the family. It's really about allowing everyone to play their part, and they will. People step in. So when something's needed, someone will step in. If it happens to be too much, then you get something called role fatigue. At that point, everybody needs to ask for what they need at that moment, and also just to be aware. So awareness is something that is heightened, I think, not only in our family, but I think in the world. People are more conscious. And I'm not so sure if it's as much an insight as it is just to witness. My in-laws are in the vulnerable category, so they don't go out at all. And my husband drops off essential goods for them, so food. And I happened to venture out after 50 days of being cooped up. I popped around to drop off some food for them. And it was fascinating to watch Liam and how aware he is to keep his distance from people, and to wear a mask, and he understands, he knows, he keeps saying we must wear our masks because of the coronavirus, and we must stay away from people. It doesn't mean he doesn't connect from a distance, because he will wave, But he understands we can't go close to people right now. And so the witnessing of that brings up so many insights for me around the consciousness in the world, how people need to be aware. And then there are also people who aren't. I know there are people out there who aren't keeping their distance, and that's scary. That is just so scary for me to think of what is going on out there. And the beauty of it is the world is pulling together, but then we're sitting with kind of an ampersand, a both and. There are people who are adhering to some of these precautions, and then there are people who aren't. And so you asked me about insights. The biggest insight is that we're in the middle of it. We're in an ampersand type moment and holding both. So I'm not sure if that's helping answer the question around insights.
It is. I wondered if I could ask you more about how you're handling explaining this to Liam, because he seems to be understanding really well, but knowing children, when I work with them, they're very good at hiding feelings away or showing little bits of their feelings and then not fully explaining, everyone's different. So how are you particularly handling this with Liam, explaining all the difficult bits?
So there was a little a children's story that I read to him right at the beginning of lockdown. And I explained to him when we weren't going to school that we would have to start schooling from home. So that took some time trying to get used to the fact that, watching him in transition around school is somewhere you go. You don't do it at home. When I'm at home, I'm at home, and when I'm at school, I do school. So that was quite interesting at the beginning, and to explain to him what the coronavirus is and what we needed to do. He seemed to really take in, okay, so we just have to stay at home and stay away from people and wash our hands. And so he seemed to, I can't even explain it. I read him one children's story once. He picked up from conversation that there is this thing called the coronavirus. And he still asks questions, what is a vaccine? The clever scientists are out there trying to find something that will help us in the, try and get rid of it, or try and make it not so, I've lost my words. Yeah. The scientists are looking for a vaccine to help us get over the risk of having a new germ, a new virus that could harm us. And so he hasn't asked many questions further than he knows there's this thing. He knows what we need to do, and we're staying home as a result. I think, talking about people being so different, he is quite a homebody. As social as he is, he really likes staying at home. So that hasn't been too much of an issue. He did mention at one point how much he missed his friends and being around his friends. However, having access to technology, and it's not the same, of course, being able to connect with his friends online is important. So we did that a couple of times before his school started doing regular sessions. So they have a check-in 3 times a week with their friends online. So I think that helps alleviate it, but it's not the same for them, of course. So that was one concern for him. He misses his friends. Furthermore, he seems to have adapted really well given the circumstances.
He sounds like he has. He really does sound like, I don't know, he's adapting and accepting the circumstance because of that openness as well, and that conversation that you're having. And I'm wondering how you as a mom and your husband as parents are gaining support for yourselves, because yes, this is difficult for children, but it's also really difficult for parents and adults in general, this whole change. So how are you managing to look after yourselves?
That's a really, really good question. So I'm very fortunate that my husband enjoys cooking, and we share. Actually, I can't say we share the load, because he's been picking up more of the load than I have, and I realize I've got to step up more in terms of the housekeeping side of things. So I'm almost shamedly honest in that respect. But, you know, in terms of taking care of ourselves as individuals, my husband enjoys playing guitar, so he takes moments to himself to be in a room alone playing guitar, and really sharing the parenting side with each other around bedtime with Liam. So making sure that we each have our own moment with Liam. We lie with him a little bit before he goes to sleep, and have our own separate conversations with him. And then once he's asleep, that'll be our time, either to be doing our own thing when we need to, but also then connecting together, watching a movie, or just sitting chatting together. So really hanging on to the moments, because that's what they are. They're really moments in between. It's not like we've got all this extra free time that people in the world are talking about, with all the time that you have now that you're not commuting. And I'm going, what free time? It just seems like crazy, the amount of meetings and things that need to be done. I'm not feeling into that huge amount of time that we suddenly have available. I'm feeling it's quite precious to take those moments. And I'm really enjoying the winding down the evenings, where I get to lie with Liam, and I ask him, what questions do you have, and what concerns do you have, and how are you feeling? And then we have a bit of a mood check around the day. So how was today a good day? And this is just last night. He said it was a great day, because we're laughing right now. We are, having a big laugh. So today was a good day. And interestingly, last night I taught him about 3 levels of reality, which is another coaching thing. And I was explaining to him what the 3 levels of reality are. And what that means is there's an essence, there's a dreaming level, and there's a reality level. And so to explain it to him, it came up because he loves flying, and he wants to be a pilot. And he said, I really wish we could fly on an airplane again. And so it was quite hard for me, because I don't know if and when that's going to happen. But I said, we can always dream. And so at that moment, I went into teaching him about it. I said, do you want to hear about the 3 levels? He says, yes. He wants to hear, and he wants to understand what it's about. And it really created a connecting moment for us, because to explain it to him, I said, you know how you just love flying, that you can't explain it, you just love it so much? And he started giggling. I said, that's like the essence. You can't put your finger on it, but it's there. And the dreaming about it is, one day maybe you can dream about going onto an airplane again. And the reality is, when you actually get onto that airplane, that'll be the reality of it. And he loved it. And it was a connecting moment for us. And it was awesome that I had this tool that came up, and I was able to do it. I know it sounds like, do I ever stop working? But it's really more than the tool. It's more than the work. It's about the connecting moments, and how we can use language and some of these tools to truly connect, and to create conversation, which I think is so important. And we do have silent moments, believe it or not. We do have moments where we don't do any talking, and I think that's as important.
You know, Colleen, I love this tool. For me, it resonates with me because when I was a child, I was a dreamer, and I probably didn't understand the dreaming and the reality. Or I think that conversation you've had will be so important in your son's life, and as he gets older as well, he'll remember that. What a fantastic tool. I really, really like it, because at a moment like this, we can be stuck in reality, which is very scary and quite sad and a bit uncertain, etc., etc. Or we can dream, but then realize there's reality that can be attached to those dreams as well. And to dream gives hope, it gives something to look forward to, and it helps our imagination, that alleviates stress. I really like that tool. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's made me smile. and and Colleen, just for parents out there struggling at the moment, which is pretty much every parent, I can't imagine this being easy for anybody. And I'm wondering if you have one final message just to those parents out there.
I do, Leah, and it's from personal experience that self-compassion, self-empathy, and moments of pausing to breathe are vital. It's just, I cannot amplify enough how important it is to hold yourself through these moments of uncertainty and difficulty. So self-compassion, self-empathy, in honor of being more compassionate and empathic towards others. And taking time to breathe, just a moment of breath, catching and connecting with your breath is one message that I'd like to share with people and parents out there.
Thank you. I feel like I've learned a lot from talking with you, and I feel that pause, that's so important, because wherever all these people have lots of time, I do not know either, because I'm definitely not seeing that time, and I'm not a parent, so I can only but imagine how difficult this is for parents out there. But that pause and taking a step back would be the key for me, and I haven't been doing it, so thank you. Thank you so much, Colleen. You're a fantastic mum, and it's been really, really lovely speaking to you. Really lovely.
Thank you so much for having me, Leah, and it's been wonderful chatting with you, and I hope that our conversation can help the listeners out there.
I'm sure it will. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Take care.
Bye-bye.